Hello, encouragers. I'm Rebecca Scott, wife, mother of 4, author, and owner and designer of Rebecca Scott Designs. I'm here to encourage you, to make you feel that I can do this spirit each and every day of our awesome journeys to fulfill our many important roles. I believe we are fully equipped to execute, and I will provide as much knowledge, practices, and systems as I can to help you understand just what I know you can do. Execute. We got this.
Hello, encouragers. Today I've got a really awesome podcast. I have got a very special guest to me, and I know will become a special guest to you as well. Her name is awesome. This is Rebecca Wiener.
Hi there.
Rebecca, tell us a little bit about what you do. And let me say this first, encouragers, you know, when I've talked, and I don't mean this in a joking manner at all, but I tell them that if you are having trouble pricing your items, you need to go to therapy. I had to. And I mean that in a really good way, because it actually did change. And obviously when I started going to counseling with you, I also worked through a ton of things that I didn't even know I needed to work through. But because of your gift, you discovered these things. So it was amazing opportunity and amazing gift that you gave me. And so I'm really happy that my podcast listeners will get to experience you on some level that I got to. So thank you so much for joining us today too, Rebecca. Can you tell us a little bit about you're welcome. Tell us a little bit about your family and what it is that you do.
Absolutely. Okay. So I have a fantastic, super deluxe, wonderful husband. I waited a long time. I worked a long time to get myself right, so I would be good enough when he showed up for me. That's how it worked. And he was off doing the same thing. So I have been married for 4 years. No, we've not been married for 4 years. I've been married for almost 3 years. And I have a 20-year-old stepdaughter and a 27-year-old stepson. And we have our puppy, Lucy, and we just have our sweet little family and value our time together and like having fun and being silly and being together.
Yeah. You mentioned, too, that you're going to be lake people, so that must be one of your family habits.
It is one of our, not dreams anymore, is one of our goals to be on a lake in a home within 2 years. And we've actually invited my parents to have their own suite or space at that place as well when they enter retirement. So, awesome. We're really looking forward to it. Things seem to be falling into place for that. So,
awesome. Okay. So tell us a little bit about what you do, because it's not just your average job.
It is not. It's a little different. I am a hypnotist and a coach. So I help people to get unstuck. So mainly I work with really determined, driven, high-performing women. And I help them if they are struggling with self-doubt, procrastination, self-sabotage, limiting themselves, feeling blocked, anxious, stuck, that kind of thing. I help them to get unstuck, get the flow going again, get into alignment, and really feel limitless. And what probably separates me the most from other coaches or hypnotists is that I really develop a deep spiritual connection. And because of this, my clients really receive a super specialized custom program for them, because we go deep into what they need, not into what I think they need. I have this ability to be able to look backwards and forwards at the same time. And what I mean by that is when someone tells me what their block is or what they're struggling with, I can ask just a few questions and help them pinpoint where it came from and how to unblock it and work through it if they are ready to do that. Mm-hmm. Some people aren't, but if they are ready to do that, and then be able to look forward and see what is possible for them. Not all the time can we see our own divine possibilities, and I can see that and help them really expand into what's possible for them and then allow their own imagination and their imagination's imagination to let them fully become who their spirit desires them to be.
Yeah. And I would emphasize, too, you're very specialized in the individual. So it's not like you go in and there's this program to follow and you're like, you're going to meet this, and this. There is homework, but it's more on like, tell me, like for me, it was like, what gives you fear and what's blocking you from getting to the next level? But none of those were your words. I just came in and said, like, I'm having trouble with this. And then you were able to talk me through memories, which is part of the hypnosis part. And then also, I would call it like forecasting, like, well, where do you want to see yourself, Rebecca? And have you stopped long enough to picture yourself in whatever role that might be? So you're right when you said it's a gift. You have a very distinguishable, if that is a word, gift of foreseeing for people and also healing, like your title is healing, what may have happened that you weren't even aware that it would bother you 10 years later or even just 2 years later. Like it was just such a thing in your subconscious, like, but it actually really affected you deeply, and you're able to pull that out of people and help them heal from it.
Right. And those moments of, whether you call it a shift or an injury or a wound or a hurt, those things can be very obvious. They could be a death or a loss of a relationship or a breakup of a marriage or an assault or abuse or an accident, some kind of really big obvious thing. Or it could be these stacks of tiny little moments where you felt not good enough, where you felt shame. Like this teacher in 4th grade just called you out on not paying attention just 3 times in 1 week. And that shifted things just enough that you stopped trusting your answers in school. So you started staying quiet. So you got on this path where you were quiet and you didn't want to make any waves and you didn't want to be seen. And now imagine, as a woman, you have this vision and this drive and this passion that comes from your spirit, but your brain is saying it's unsafe for you to be visible. So how we have to really heal the subconscious mind, because the subconscious mind is always trying to keep us safe. The brain, its job is to keep us safe. But our spirit is the one that desires growth and happiness and connection and exploration of these divine visions that we have. So we have to get the brain really calm and limitless to allow the spirit to be able to take action and do its thing.
I'm going to be vulnerable and tell you guys a little bit about how Rebecca helped me, if it's so possible, because I think this will also give another example. Is I went into her and we got down to a story. I said, I feel like I'm doubting myself, and I rarely do that. I'm a pretty confident gal, and I don't mean in a bragging sense. I'm just like, yep, that's the decision. I'm very decisive. And I was really having trouble making decisions on my business, creative-wise, all kinds of different things. And we narrowed it down to, you did, not we. You definitely pulled out the story where I was staying with a gentleman in it's actually my yard now. We live in our new house now. And I was asking him about wanting to build a barn studio for my business. And I'd drawn up the plans and everything. And I was like, all right, I just need to figure out how I'm going to afford it and make the plan. And even if it's a 10-year plan, I'm just going to start this, and here's my goal. Well, then I started being shaken, and I was doubting that it was even possible and all these things. And the gentleman, after I drew it up, said, well, you just drew $1 million barn. And I was like, oh, wait a minute. I was not thinking $1 million barn. I was thinking more fancy Morton building. So I said, I'll just redraw up the plans with my brother-in-law who was drawing them up. I'm like, we'll figure that part out. And then he said to the gentleman that was with him also that was here in the yard, he said, she's a loose cannon. And the gentleman told me that later. He said, well, it was kind of an investor guy. He goes, well, he said you were a loose cannon. I was like, what? I'm like, well, what did you tell him? And he's also a friend of mine. I said, you have the wrong impression. Rebecca's not a loose cannon. She's very decisive. She's very goal-oriented. I would not describe her as that. So at least he defended me, but I wasn't able to defend myself. And, this guy may have meant it mean-spirited or not. He was probably just being callous, just kind of, I always called it a man in a suit. And so that, I didn't realize it, but that is what shook me for 14 months. I kept thinking, well, this man in a suit, which I had somehow in my mind created that was an authority figure, had told me I was a loose cannon, so maybe I was. And so, you guys, Rebecca just helped me work through all of that. And I mean, within 3 to 4 months, I had created 6 new styles. I mean, I was back on par. Because we had worked through what it was that shook it. And I wasn't even aware of it until we went through this spiritual journey of figuring out, okay, wait, what an event must have happened or something must have been said. So there's my example.
Right. It's really powerful, too, because as you stated, your brain had created this person in a suit being an authority figure. And that is its own limit, isn't it? That someone in a certain kind of outfit can make us feel less than.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And then having a moment of shame or embarrassment from that person that we already feel like less than because they must be better than us because of how they dressed, et cetera, whatever story we're telling ourselves. Then that is in that file for that experience. And then anything surrounding the same circumstances, the same emotions, the same environment, the same people, your brain automatically pulls that file to use as a reference of how to respond. And when there's that doubt, that little sliver, which can turn into like a big chunk of doubt is in there, that file gets used over and over and over again. And then when those files are used in that manner over and over, they form habits. And those habits turn into things like anxiety or a fear or a block, or sometimes they can turn into things like depression or rage or whatever. But it just takes a moment to shift out of alignment because of something. And we all do this. So if you are listening right now and you're thinking, oh my gosh, I'm such a mess because I remember exactly what happened that turned my life into this direction.
Okay.
Release yourself from judgment, please, because every human has this.
Mm-hmm.
Every human moves through these experiences where our emotions are triggered and the reference files get a little wonky. Mm-hmm. Everyone. I've been doing this work for 14 years. And I always say that I'm a work in progress because I think we all are as humans. Mm-hmm. But as we shift and we up-level, there's continued growth and work and shifting that happens because that's what our spiritual journey as a human is about. It's about growth and shift and change. So part of it is really releasing yourself from judgment and really loving yourself through those kind of experiences.
Yeah, so good. So you're talking about it a little bit, but talk to us about how our self-worth is our limit.
Okay. Our self-worth is the root of every limiting belief that we have. Where our self-worth was at the time that we created a belief or a story or a reference file or a program. Okay. So in that moment with the person who was in the suit, for example, to use that as the example, you may have had lots of things going on in your life. You may have had, you were talking about building a barn, and someone said it might be $1 million, and, all this stuff was going on. So there was excitement, there was joy, there was maybe a little nervous anticipation for seeing if this project was possible, getting the approval of an investor, that kind of thing, where there's even a little bit of fear there.
Oh, yeah. Mm-hmm.
So imagine from that moment and then finding out that someone thought you were a loose cannon and how that shifts our self-worth. Because if we look at someone who is an authority figure as more than we are already. We are less than. And then having them say something like the loose cannon thing can be another layer of doubt over our self-worth. Now, I think of our self-worth as a light that's inside of us. It is the light, the love that God gave us, that God created. It's like the true connection to God that we are, that light that's inside of us. And every experience that we have in our lives either enhances that light or covers it up. So the light is the self-worth. So if we go through life and perfectly nothing ever happens to us, which is, I don't believe that occurs, then the light can stay bright and it's always fine and nothing, and we're like a beam of light shining through life and being perfect and everything's great and there's no hiccups, no nothing. That's not really reality. But as we're experiencing life as humans, we have, that pop quiz that we get a C on. There's that boy or girl that doesn't really like us as much as we like them. Or there's that moment that we got called out for being late in school. And our first job, we really messed this thing up. Or our parents got a divorce, and it just made me wonder, like, what did I have to do with that? Was it partly my fault, or my dad wasn't around, or my parents fought all the time, or I never knew my birth mother, or like all of these things that pile on top of that self-worth, all of these questions and experiences. The self-worth, the light is still under there. But our experiences and how we hold them naturally, because our subconscious mind is always trying to keep us safe, holds on to those files to remind us of, hey, be careful, because, these things hurt us. As those things pile up, we get further away from our self-worth. So the peeling back of those layers through coaching, through counseling, through hypnosis, whatever method that you choose, helps you to really get back to that true light, that true self-worth. Because all those negative experiences just create more space between you and what is possible, what your mind will allow you to believe is possible, what your true spirit is, and what your mind will allow you to believe is possible for you. Because our brain will try to stop anything that seems uncomfortable or too outrageous, too far, too big of a goal. That's why you hear people say words like, set a goal so big that you have to become the person who can achieve it. Okay. And then when you set a goal like that, your body might fill with tension or fear or butterflies or headache, or you might just stop yourself in your tracks and say, that's not possible for me, and go do something that's super easy. Because the idea of being in that space between where you are right now and achieving that goal is so vast and unknown that your brain will try to limit you by subconsciously reminding you of these old experiences to keep you safe. The limits are your brain's way of trying to keep you safe. Does that all connect?
Yeah, it does. I'm quiet because it's still just very profound when you say things. And so I'm trying to soak in every moment. But what I'm understanding too, and now I'm recalling it, is that how do we know if it's our brain that is telling us, some kind of scenario where it's our brain that's getting uncomfortable, so it's like, no, pull back, you don't want to do that. And how do we know when it's like a gut check that, no, we actually do need to pursue this?
Sure. They feel differently. I think they feel differently. And you have to really develop your own awareness of how your intuition and the gut check feels versus how fear feels in your body.
Okay.
Because fear equals limits, equals unworthiness, stuck, that kind of thing. All those words, kind of resistance, they all mean the same thing to me. They're all rooted in fears. And fear creates tension, tightness, sometimes overwhelm, sometimes headaches, that kind of thing. And a gut check will be like, hey, that's not in alignment with your values. Remember who you are. Remember what your standards are. And that feels a little bit different. It's like, to me, it's like a light gets shined on, hey, remember this gets to be for you too. And is this what you truly want? Rather than, oh my gosh, I'm so scared, I'm going to back out.
Why is it so important that we recognize, I remember this from our sessions, is that how do you feel in this moment? You would ask me, do you feel the anxiety if I was packing for a show or whatever? Do you feel the anxiety in your chest? Is it in your head? Is it in your gut? Where do you feel it? Why is it so important to narrow for ourselves as far as self-awareness where that pain is coming from? Is it because of what you just talked about? Like so that you could remember and make a pattern in your brain that, wait a minute, this is just fear sneaking in because I'm experiencing it in my head?
Yes. I believe the first step of any growth, discovery, shift for yourself is awareness of how you feel. And every emotion has an energetic vibration, right? Because God created this beautiful thing called quantum physics, and everything has its own vibration. Everything is energy and matter. So we are vibrating in a certain way with every emotion. And the heavy, fearful emotions, and honestly, anything that makes you feel yucky in your life, really yucky, comes from a place of fear. When we just are so in our thoughts and not in our body, we will then be in the space where 60 to 70,000 thoughts per day are happening, and only a handful of them truly serve us. So we can start to believe the things that are flying through our mind, but if we're paying attention to also what's happening in our body, we can bring ourselves into the present moment more, instead of being in time travel where you're ruminating about something that already happened, or you're worrying about something that will happen in the future. You can be more in the present moment. When you notice that, for me, any anxious moments, they're usually like in my gut, or like my stomach will get a little tight, or my chest will get a little tight. And so I notice that when I'm feeling that feeling, I can ask myself, what, if anything, am I afraid of right now? Why do I have this resistance in my body? What's it about? Is this something I need to work on? Is this something that I can breathe through right now? But it brings you back into the present moment. And the present is where all the good stuff is happening. So the awareness and being in the present moment, that really helps you to create that mindfulness. So that's why I asked that feeling, because there's a physical response, a physical feeling that's associated with every emotion.
Which I had forgotten about, but now I am reminded. But that is so true. Like you can narrow down, and you can also relate feelings with each other. Like, oh my gosh, I love this feeling. Instantly you have a memory of when you had that feeling, that same vibration, as you would say.
Right. Mm-hmm. It's fun to get to know yourself in this way, because you'll notice patterns then in this situation. A long time ago, before I got into hypnosis or coaching, I dealt with social anxiety. And through my journey, I was able to use hypnosis and coaching techniques and working with a hypnotist to heal my own anxiety. And when I dealt with that, I had to pay attention to where this was coming from, how it was happening, where I would notice the most, what kind of experiences, and then I could pinpoint what's really going on with me. Instead of just, oh, this is just the way people feel. I mean, I at that point in my life had this thought that this must just be the way people feel. Maybe people just aren't really happy. Maybe we're all just like trying to get through. We're all just trying to go through the motions. And now my life, of course, my feelings, my emotions are 180 degrees from where they were then, because of the work that I've done on myself and continue to do on myself. That I pay attention to these patterns, and I desire the people that work with me, I desire for them to know themselves in this way, because you can get through anything. When you know yourself and you trust yourself, you can get through any experience.
Yeah. And it's a very deep level of self-awareness, but it doesn't necessarily start deep until you start recognizing these patterns. Like, and it's a lot like what I talked about in our podcast, the agreements versus actual truths. And I think that's what you're talking here also with how our limits are how we make decisions, whether or not we take action, how we believe in ourselves, what kind of visions we can create, all delve down to our self-worth limit.
Yes, beautifully stated. I believe that every emotion comes from either a place of fear or a place of love. And when we are in love, we are in self-worth. We're connected to our spirituality, our faith, our trust in ourselves, our confidence in who we really are, not who we think we should be or what society wants from us. And when we are in a fear place, that's when we dip into jealousy, insecurities. I don't have to listen. I know it all already. Stereotypes, fear of being vulnerable. So being in a loving place is truly the goal, so that you can operate from who you really are with your values and your standards and your nice, healthy boundaries.
Mm-hmm.
Makes all those decisions flow so, just be in a flow rather than getting interrupted with resistance.
What are some other blocks that you kind of see in what my listeners would experience? So a lot of us are career-oriented mothers, wives. We're juggling quite a few roles. What are some blocks you see that maybe we aren't aware of that you would challenge us to kind of become self-aware of?
Okay. So as I say this, please be gentle with yourself, because remember, everyone has blocks. Even the people who describe themselves as gurus are working through some stuff.
Amen.
Yeah, I don't describe myself as a guru. I'm a facilitator and I'm a catalyst for healing. That's how I like to describe myself. And I'm in a process of that with myself, the growth and the healing and the shifting all the time. So I don't think that any person just really has it all figured out.
No.
So let's think about some of the things that stand out to me, particularly there are some women who are really, really visible. If you look back, you can hear people say things like, oh, you're such a Martha Stewart, or you're such an Oprah, or you're such a Betty Crocker, or whatever. And it's like there's these archetypes that we think that we have to follow, that we have to appear like we have it all put together, that we have to do things like we see people do them on Instagram or on Facebook or in magazines, that we have to make ourselves into what we think other people want us to be based on what we see around us. When all of us have a unique message and vision that are gifts, that they're not going to look like everybody else's. And that is the beauty of them. Mm-hmm. That some people are meant to hear your message from you the way that it's supposed to come from your heart, not through a filter of, well, Oprah would say it this way, or Brene would say it that way, or so-and-so would say it this way. Some people need to hear it the way that you have to say it, the way that you feel it, the way that you create your product or coach your client or work with your patient or care for your children is so beautiful and unique when it is fully authentic, when it's fully you. And that's really operating from a beautiful self-worth place. My message, the one that was put inside of me to share, is beautiful enough on its own without having to make it look like somebody else.
Mm-hmm.
That's a big one.
Yeah. Yeah.
Then there's this, I know it all already, so I don't really have to listen to what you have to say. I can maybe read your headline. I don't have to read your whole article. I don't have to listen to what you say completely because I know it all already.
Mm-hmm.
And the truth is, a lot of things we know kind of, but it's okay to not know everything. It's okay to allow an expert to be an expert, because then you get to fully be an expert at what your experiences, your knowledge is. Give the same respect to other women. Fully listen and be present with them as you would want to be given to you around your expertise.
Absolutely. That is exactly what we need to hear. It doesn't, I think the pretty filter on Instagram has done us all in. Like,
right.
Just be who you are and be okay with your story is different. You know, sometimes, especially maybe in the world of coaching, but a lot in the world when, for example, my platform, Rebecca Scott Designs, I do quite a few Facebook Live events, and people say, oh my gosh, we have similar stories, or our stories are exactly the same and all this. I hesitate to confirm that because I think I don't want you to say that, not because I want you to take anything away from my story, but I want you to know that you're individually beautiful. So you tell it. Tell me what that is and pursue that for yourself. That'll be awesome, because I don't want them to think they need to live my story, because good gravy, nobody would want to live it anyways, as far as like, you know, mistakes and that sort of thing. So I want them to feel confident with the only difference people relate so well to my Facebook Lives or my Instagram or when I go on is because there's a certain amount of relatability and authenticity of, okay, yeah, actually she does really mean it, or yeah, she's got kids in the background that are yelling just like at my house, or you know, whatever it is. But just be careful that your story is unique and beautiful, no matter how it is told, and no matter how you paint it, that it's your story.
Right. I think that's beautifully stated, that everyone's story is their story, is exactly the way their story is supposed to be, which some people can get a little funny when I say things like that. Like, your story is exactly what it's supposed to be. Well, why did this happen in my life? It happened because your life is perfectly designed for you to have experiences, painful or otherwise.
Yes. Yeah.
It is, well, how do I know it's perfect? Because it happened. Pain, there can be so much beauty and discovery through pain.
Yes.
Even though a lot of us don't want to feel the pain. I mean, nobody really wakes up in the morning asking for something to happen or for there to be pain. But there's so much discovery. And what we discover through our own pain is also very different. I think too naturally, because of social media, more so because of social media now, that we do want to be supportive, which means that we try to relate to each other.
Okay. Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's natural for us to say, hey, I've been there. This is what I did. I know you can get through this because I got through it, which is very wonderful and supportive.
Yes, absolutely.
And at the same time, you can take your own journey and share it the way is right for you without anybody else's filter.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, so good. So good. Rebecca, what could you offer our encouragers as some closing thoughts for encouragement? And then also, if we wanted to contact you and get the help that we all know we need, how would we do that?
Oh, thank you so much. Okay, so my message is one of love, and it is not trite, okay? When I say my message is of love, some people can just gloss over that. Well, I've heard the love stuff. You know, I know. Be loving, be kind, be compassionate, whatever. Just pause in this moment. Put your hand on your heart and love yourself for exactly who she is right now. Everything that she has been through, everything she has learned, everything she's discovering and continuing to learn, everything that she is about to discover, and so much more. Be so loving with yourself, so accepting. You can still have goals. You can still desire more for yourself, but pause and truly be in this place of, I really am enough. I really do have value. And when in doubt, speak to yourself in the way of, we got this.
Mm-hmm.
Mind, body, spirit, we're all together here. We've got this together. We can get through anything.
Perfect, Rebecca, because that's how I end all the podcast is, we got this, encouragers. So what are the odds of that?
I love it. Excellent. So I have a gift because I'm one of my love languages is gifts.
Oh,
so
yes.
I have a gift for all of you who are listening. If you go to wholelifehappy.com/freeass, FREEASS, I have about 70 minutes worth of affirmations to move out of fear and into love. And they're broken down into 7 chapters. They're about 10 minutes each, kind of, getting you through a nice start of your day. They're beautiful affirmations to help you remind yourself of who you really are.
Awesome.
And set yourself up for a really awesome day.
Yes.
And you can download them, put them on your phone, listen to them while you're working. They're all kid-friendly, of course. So lots of my friends and clients have them playing in the car with them. So you can please download them, use them, share them with your friends, and just pull some love into your life that way. And I really hope you enjoy them. I had so much fun making them.
Oh, gosh, and I have listened to them. That's super kind of you to give that, because I preach a lot that we have to have affirmations. They're a beautiful way to start a day or end a day, or to really affirm what we already know or that we're a little shaky about. Affirmations, just even if it's spoken from someone else, you can claim them as your own.
Absolutely. And the more that you say them, the more they become part of your inner dialogue, your subconscious track. They move from your conscious mind with repetition to your subconscious mind, and they help you really let that become part of the fabric of your day, which is really, really fun.
Awesome. Okay. Thank you so much, Rebecca. Also, your business is called?
My whole company is called Whole Life Happy. You can reach me directly at RebeccaWiener.com. It's RebeccaWiener.com, and you can find out about coaching and hypnosis, and you can see my schedule for consultations, or you can just send me an email right through there. I would love to talk with anybody on their journey, and my heart is to help women who have a vision really embrace that vision so they can make a wonderful contribution to the world. So I get to be part of that ripple.
Yes, that's fun ripple.
Yes, it really is, isn't it?
Awesome. Thank you so much for joining us, Rebecca.
Thank
Girls
you.
and listeners, I really hope you take advantage of everything that Rebecca has given us today, because she's a giver, and I really hope that you end up contacting her. I am not exaggerating when I say she changed my life, and she changed the trajectory of where I am today. So I am very personally very thankful and love you very much for what you've been able to do.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Rebecca. Thank you for sharing this time with me and allowing me to be in this space with you. It's been wonderful.
Yes. Thank you, encouragers. Until next time, we got this.
Hey, encouragers! If you're feeling overwhelmed, if you've had the scene where you're crying because there's no way you can meet all the roles in your life, I've been there. I've so been there, but I'm not there anymore. And I know how you can get out of that slump and start executing on all the things that God has equipped you to do. You can pick up my book at equippedtoexecute.com, also on my website at shoprSD.com, and it's also available on Amazon. Thank you for tuning in, encouragers. Remember to subscribe so it's automatically on your phone, and please rate and review me. We got this, encouragers.